light is spilling down in between those clouds, and the refraction, the moisture in the air or something was just so that the colors were not in a rainbow shape. But this piece was difficult to do because in terms of paint, it needed to look, the rainbow colors needed to look translucent, but they couldn't be garish. And you know, when we think of a rainbow in our mind, the colors are really vivid. But if you paint it like that, it looks like, oh my heavens, what have you done? So that actually took me quite a bit of time to get that to really have that sort of soft, ethereal look. So if we want to step around the corner, I think there are a few more here. We can look at this one. This painting also is looking at the Cascades and called Northwest Sunrise. It was a view out my window, a little bit edited. It doesn't look quite like that. But again, the early morning, the calm and the peace, I just enjoy that time of day so much. This painting is another one on Bainbridge Island. It's the head of Eagle Harbor, and there's a park there and Ray's automotive shop. And if you stop in the park and look back towards the road, you will see this dock and that boat. The boat, I think, is a little, they may have painted it, but I just looked not long ago and it's still there. And this is early spring, so I call this waiting for spring because it's not really quite warm enough to go and spend time on an open boat, but it's that sort of early green and the water reflections, and that's what I enjoy doing a lot, the seaweed, the leaves on the beach. This painting is quite a bit different. There is a new genre called disrupted realism. And that's what I'm looking for here, in that all of the paintings that are of this genre, and it's something that's just been happening very recently, there is a realistic portion of it, but the rest of the painting is abstract. So although this is the blue heron, there are lines. He's on a dock. Actually, I took that picture in Paulsbo on the marina there. But everything is kind of not quite clear, not quite, it's disrupted. So it's disrupted realism. And in the background, being abstract, it's really quite difficult to get an abstract portion look good with a realistic portion. So while you think, oh, you just throw a little paint here and there and you got it, to get it to balance, to flow, to have the composition work well, it's really very difficult to do.
It makes it look somewhat spiritual, if you will.
Yes.
And it helps add a story to it. It's not just something that's right in your face.
That's true.
It has room for interpretation.
Yeah. So yes, it leaves, there's a mystery. There's wondering, well, why? Why does it look like that? So I'm liking this. I'm doing a little bit more in this kind of vein because I find it very interesting. The painting over here behind us now is a fairly large piece. I'm not sure how well it comes through in the lighting. There we go. It's the Fraser River in Hope, BC, and we were up there for vacation, and I was just astonished at how the mountains just burst out of the land and they like go straight up. And so that's why I painted this piece. I was just enamored with it, and the Fraser, and the river flows so fast. But there's a sandy bar right here, and the water goes around it. So it was interesting to try to capture the light you'll hear artists talk about the light. Yes, it is about the light, but to make the water look like it was moving, yet had light to it, and then the sort of the focal point and the trees in the back where there's the sun just hits it. And if you haven't been to Hope, BC, it's a very small community, but it's spectacular scenery. Let's see, we have another one right around the corner here. This is actually one of my favorites. Put this down. This is Evening on Liberty Bay, and it was a snowy day, and I was going to Paulsbo, and happened to see that view. And what I liked about it particularly was the reflections of the trees and the boats in the water, which I thought was just lovely. So there's a major alteration in that actually the building that's here is a large, very large house. And that wouldn't have quite been the character that I wanted to have in the painting, so I scaled it down quite a lot. But you can recognize that scene if you look for the tall poplar tree and the big building on that hill. So that's Liberty Bay, Evening on Liberty Bay, one of my favorites. And this painting has kind of a nice story to it. It's different than all the other ones that I have here in that it's a major close-up. And this was done for Ars Poetica. And Ars Poetica is a competition. Poets send in their poems, and they're juried, and then selected artists are asked to choose a poem or two and create a painting for it. And this, so this is called, I've called it Under the Pier, but the poem done by Elizabeth Hoskis is Under the Ferry Pier with Zaven. And she and her grandson had, while waiting for the ferry, when the ferries were overloaded, before the pandemic, and you had lots of time you had to wait, she and her grandson went under the ferry pier, and he was just astounded at all the sea life around the pilings. So that is the poem that I chose to respond to. So these are crustaceans and barnacles and the things that you see both above the water and below as you are looking. It's, sort of dark underneath there, and the lights are green, gray, silvery, and it is a magical place. So, and for those of us that grew up on the water, we all relate to that. So that's a kind of a fun thing. The last piece is way down here.
Get to have a nice walk through Grace as well.
Yes, this is a beautiful church. This is another nighttime or evening scene when the lights are subdued, and this one is not a real place. It's an imaginary place, but it's the light at the end of the day, when the moon comes up, and it's not quite dark, but you still see quite a bit of moonlight on the water, and then just a little bit of reflection off from the light off the plants. So that's a simpler one, but I think still has a nice feel to it.
It's wonderful. Thank you. Kim?
Hi, Vivian. Hi, John. Hi, everyone. Vivian, it's nice to meet you. I'm Kim. And we're so thrilled that you're here. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this morning. I've been collecting some questions, and if you do have a question for Vivian, please do put it in the chat window, and I'll be happy to ask those for you. And John, while I ask the first couple of questions I've gotten, would you mind going back to the first paintings? We were a little late in our recording, So we missed those on the recording. And this will be, as you're hearing, recorded. So if you missed the beginning, we missed the beginning, but if you missed part of this or you want to share it with friends, it will be posted on.
Okay.
So the first question that I have, Vivian, is, let's see, what medium do you use for your paintings?
I use mostly oils, but I often put acrylic painting on the canvas first, because you can paint oil paint on top of acrylic paint, but not the other way around. But particularly with the larger pieces, it gives me, acrylic dries really fast. Oils don't. So I can paint of a variety of colors on the canvas, let it dry of acrylic paint, and then come back and use oil paint on top of that. And I do that because for me, the oil paint, I can get, it's a richer, more buttery paint. It doesn't dry so fast. I have more time to work with it. But it also has richer colors for me, and I can mix tiny increments of color change much more easily in oil than I could with acrylic. So that's why I do it that way.
And you mentioned that a lot of your art are based upon photographs.
Yes.
Are you painting on top of a photograph or a sketch that you make from the photograph?
I'm not painting on top of a photograph. I generally make a number of sketches because although nature is lovely, it isn't necessarily composed exactly the way you would want to have it in a painting, was just confined in size. And so I do a number of sketches to make sure that I have a nice composition, that it works together. And then I sketch that on the canvas with charcoal and spray it so the charcoal doesn't smear when I'm then actually doing my real painting on top of that.
Why would you use charcoal instead of pencil?
Pencil, the oil paint, the oil in the paint smears the graphite of the pencil. And so and the other reason is because I'm not that great of a drawer. And when I'm drawing something on the canvas, with the charcoal, I can sketch it and then say, oh, it really needs to be up a little bit or over a little bit. And I can wipe it off with a paper towel and redraw it until I have it exactly right. With pencil, you would have to erase it. And on a canvas, it's very difficult to erase. Yeah. So were there questions
Let's go
about
to the
this
next painting.
piece?
Oh,
Kim?
Kim, you're muted.
Oh, thank you. The next question that I have for you, Vivian, comes from the Cathcarts, and they're wondering, how long have you been painting and how did you get started?
I've been painting for about 10 years, which many people isn't all that long, but I have, all my life I've been involved in art, although it was originally in fashion design and the manufacturing of clothing. So technical drawing, also design of textiles, printed textiles. So I did a lot of like color composition. So I had to learn to mix color well there and create designs for fabric. But and I was a weaver for many years, but in weaving and all textile arts, including sewing, it takes a lot of preparatory time, and then you create your project, and then you look at it and say, oh, if I had just moved this over here or had a little bit bigger collar or something, but you can't really change it. So when I retired, I decided I would take up painting, and painting is absolutely magical because you can take a brush, a little bit of color, put it on the canvas, and you have something there. It may not be what you want, but you have something, and you can work with it and move on and change it. and it's so easy compared to the textile arts.
Thank you. I have another question here. Have you made greeting cards or prints based on your paintings?
Yes, I have. I have a number of cards, greeting cards, blank, that are available, and I've also made prints. And actually, I have just been accepted at Front Street Gallery in Paulsbo, which is a co-op gallery. So I have prints and cards and other paintings available there. And that's just recent, so I'm very happy about that.
Oh, that's a great gallery. I live in Paulsbo, so I've been in there quite a bit. So I will look for you, Vivian. Um,
Terrific.
and the other thing I wanted you all to know is that Vivian's pieces are available to buy, to purchase. So if you're interested in purchasing one of her pieces, you can certainly email me and I will help with that. Do we have any other questions here?
I wanted to point out also that Vivian has a website, and you can see these drawings on her website.
Wonderful. Vivian, my husband Martin, sitting next to me here, has a question about scale. How do you decide on the scale of your paintings? Because it looks like there's a variety of different sizes.
Yes. Some things just need more space. I'm not sure I can really describe it better than that. Some things are, originally I did a number of flower paintings. Well, flower paintings can be a lot smaller and they read right. But large landscapes that are vast in space, and I think the abstract, partially abstract pieces, disruptive realism, also need larger canvases. It just doesn't fit or work within a smaller canvas. But the pieces I have at Front Street Gallery are smaller because the space is smaller. But this, the gallery at Grace here has such beautiful walls and display area that I could do larger paintings, which was really nice for me.
I have another question from our friend Gary Lagerlof, and he's asking, how do you decide when a painting is finished?
How do I decide when it's finished?
Yeah.
Sometimes that takes a while, actually. I do a painting and then I think I'm done. And then I put it above my mantle in the house and I look at it for a number of days as I go by or sit down. And I will often see, oh, well, this needs to be adjusted, or this needs more color, or I need to put more light over here. And so then I fuss with it. And I'll take it back to the studio and I'll make the changes. Then it goes back in the house and I look at it some more. And eventually I reach a point when it's just like, well, okay, that's it. It looks good now. So I guess it's arbitrary.
Vivian, I have a question for you. How is this time of quarantine during the pandemic, how has that affected you, if at all, as an artist?
I don't think it's affected me much as an artist. Painting is a solitary endeavor, unlike being a musician or a poet. So I still can go about doing my painting, and I paint nearly every day. Displaying it is a little more difficult during the pandemic because there hasn't been access. People haven't been moving around. So that's a bit of a struggle, but that's affecting everybody. So it's not just me.
Does anyone else have a question for Vivian?
Do you do commissions if someone has a painting that they would like to have made?
Yes, I'm actually working on a commission now. A person traveled to Europe and had some photographs of a place that was particularly important to them and had a lot of meaning for them. And although he likes the photograph, he really wants something that's a little larger and more painterly. So I'm doing that. And he understands that the painting will not look exactly like the photograph. And that's important for me because I'm not wanting to be a super realistic painter. If you have a lovely photograph, that's a lovely photograph, and I'm not sure that I could improve on it. But if I can have it have a painterly effect, and if need be, change the composition just slightly so that it would read better as a painting, then great, love to do it.
Excellent.
So as we wrap up here, I'm going to put Vivian, I'm going to put your website address in the window. So if you all hold on just a moment, that link will be there for you. And I just want to thank you again for joining us today. I felt like I was right there. It was really lovely and so great to meet you. Love and we're so privileged to have your art on our walls. And John, thank you for making this possible. This was a wonderful tour, and I'm getting comments that people have really, really enjoyed it. So thank you both so much.
That's great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Great. Bye now. That was lovely. That was just lovely.
Thank you all so much for joining us. That was wonderful. Have a wonderful day, and we do have her website there in the chat window, so please do visit that. Thank you all. I'll leave it up just for a couple minutes, and then I'll end this meeting.